Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday morning. I am Carol Williams with Williams Immigration, and we are back for another Monday morning edition of Beyond the Soundbite, where we talk about all things U.S. immigration. So, the first thing I want to dive into is the fact that the Department of Labor is back up and running because the federal government shutdown has ended. And so, what does that mean for immigration and the Department of Labor? So, during the shutdown, until very, very recently, we were not getting LCAs, we were not getting perms processed, we were not getting prevailing wages, we weren't getting any of that. And people were filing their perm applications via the mail, like super, super old school. So now that Department of Labor is back up and running, the flag system is also back up and running. Department of Labor has given us a little bit of guidance, which is super helpful. So perm applications that were mailed in during the government shutdown will take several months for manual entry, which means someone's going to have to sit there and manually key in all of the data on those printed perm applications. So that's going to take several months to happen. However, the priority date for the application will reflect the date that the application was actually received. So the date that it was actually delivered into Department of Labor during the shutdown, and not the date that it was actually hand keyed into the system, because there's going to be a several month lag between those two dates. So the priority date will be the date that it was actually received at Department of Labor, but it is going to take them several months to get those applications keyed in into the system. They have also given us guidance that if your recruitment for your perm applications expired during the shutdown, the recruitment will be extended for 33 days. That was the length of the shutdown. So they are automatically extending recruitment for those 33 days. If an employer had some sort of deadline during the government shutdown, whether it was they needed to respond to a request for further information, an audit notice, a notice of acceptance, notice of deficiency, any notices from the Department of Labor, those dates, the due date is also automatically extended by 33 days. So if you are now filing your perm in the flag system and it looks on its face like your recruitment has expired, the system will automatically tell you that. The system sort of automatically pops up in red, and essentially says that your recruitment's expired, your dates are off, whatever it says. Pop a note in the application itself. Find a free field where you can put that note in there, so that the person reviewing it on the back end is reminded of that, instead of waiting for them to essentially deny or give you a request for information. So that's what we have for Department of Labor. So those are good. That's sort of good guidance from the Department of Labor now that they are back up and running. I want to flip over now to public charge rule. And so there has been guidance that has been given to visa officers that they should take into consideration when they are looking at the public charge rule individuals that have certain medical conditions, and whether or not the care of those medical conditions would require them or would make them more likely to apply for and receive government benefits. Specifically mentioned were diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular issues, and mental health concerns. So some folks, as you can imagine, are not pleased about this. It has sort of made it out into the media that, if you have any of these issues, these medical issues, that your green card will automatically be denied. I don't know that that's the case, although obviously we haven't seen this sort of in play yet. So we will definitely keep our eye on this. But what it does do is it gives the officer a lot of leeway, essentially to guess how much and what the expense will be for someone that may have cardiovascular issues, mental health concerns, obesity, and diabetes. So we'll see, but it does give does give officers a very wide latitude under the current public charge rules. So we'll see. Again, I don't know, none of us really know how this is going to look like in action. This just came out a minute ago, so I'll keep you updated on it. And the last thing I wanted to talk about this morning is the national interest waiver. I've gotten several calls about individuals that want to self-sponsor for national interest waiver, which is always good, which is always great. People can self-sponsor their green card through the national interest waiver category. It's a second preference category. People are generally looking into the national interest waiver now, I think more than ever, because they're trying to get a handle and wrap their head around some of these very extremely long wait times, depending on what country you're from. And there are some employers who have placed holds on all green card sponsorships. That is what people are telling me when they call me. So that's, I sort of pass that on to you. But I want people to know that national interest waiver is not for everybody. Everybody does not qualify for national interest waiver. And a national interest waiver is a lot more than having a master's degree or a PhD and whatever your thesis or dissertation was. A national interest waiver application really requires documents that are presented to the Immigration Service to tell them what you are going to do, what your plan is, what your endeavor is, how are you going to impact the nation, and why should USCIS waive the job recruitment requirements for your application. And I tell people all the time, your endeavor has to be more than an idea. So you really want to kind of put a lot of thought into it and really work with someone that can sort of pull that information out of you and get you to really think about your endeavor from the perspective of the Immigration Service. And while you may have a great idea, if there's not a lot to back that up, not a lot of data, not a lot of documents, immigration will absolutely not approve that application. So we want to, submit applications that we think will be approved. So in order to do that, we really have to have a clear plan, what you're going to be doing, who you're going to be impacting, as well as documents that back that up. So I tell my clients all the time, it's really about telling your story. It's about telling a cohesive, clear story about who you are and what you're going to be doing. And it's not just about your degree. It's not just about having a master's degree. It's not just about having a PhD. So it's really about telling your story and telling it succinctly. So I wanted to kind of bring that to your attention. I've had several calls on that recently. So I heard that was on people's minds, so I would talk about it this morning. So if you have any other questions about immigration, you're trying to figure out what's happening with the public charge rule, you're trying to figure out if you qualify for national interest waiver, feel free to reach out. We will get you on the phone and we'll have a conversation. In the meantime, have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye, everyone.